divorce happens. It shouldn't happen, but it does. The marriage covenant is a lifelong promise. The promise they are making isn't contingent on external influences, like sickness or health, like a bad economy or a good economy. It's not contingent on, are they sexually appealing or have they put on some weight? The promise they are making isn't based on the actions of the betrothed. You listen to me on this. The promise you're making isn't based on the actions of your spouse. Well, what if your spouse turns out to be a real big jerk? Well, your covenant, your vows have nothing to do with that. Your spouse will make better decisions and they'll make worse decisions, for better or worse, right? Your covenant isn't based on that. Your covenant is a selfless covenant. It's selfless. And whereas divorce is often selfish and full of vengeance. Would you agree with that in this day and age? It is often selfish and full of vengeance. There is nothing as tense as a divorce. It brings out the worst in people. It has unbelievable emotions tied to it, and rightly so, because you are ripping apart one person. If you ripped apart one person, it would be the most grotesque thing you ever saw. But that's what you're doing. You're ripping apart this one flesh relationship. Divorce is often selfish and full of vengeance. Nothing about these vows suggested that as long as it's profitable for you, you can stay together. Nothing about your vows suggested, you know what, as long as such and such, I will such and such. That was never in your vows. Your covenant, in fact, isn't based on happiness. I'm just not happy in this marriage anymore. You hear this a lot. Here's my response to that. I'm sorry about that. I really am. Number one, I don't blame that on your marriage. I blame that on this broken world. There's some unhappiness in this world, and I'm really sorry. But don't you know that happiness fluctuates? Happiness goes up and happiness goes down, and perhaps you should stick around and work on this marriage. Don't terminate your marriage because it hits a low point. Married couples, say amen if you agree with this sentence. Every marriage hits a low point. So don't terminate your marriage just because it hit a low point. Stick around. There might be a lower point there. Just kidding. No, it could turn around. Your covenant isn't based on happiness, but it's not based on feelings either, on emotions. I just don't feel the same about them anymore. I'm sorry, but do you really want to make life decisions based on your feelings? Especially these important life decisions that will affect your family, that'll affect the other person. And what are these feelings? Do you still love them? If you don't still love them, we need to talk. But maybe you still love them, but you don't feel the same way about them sexually. Maybe you don't feel the same way about their character. I mean, really define that. But usually we'll just throw out these ambiguous stuff. Well, I just don't feel the same about them. If you live life based on your feelings, you will do something different every day of your life. If you lived your marriage by your feelings, you'd be divorced already. All right? So don't start doing that. Let me remind you that one night stands, those are based on feelings. Those aren't based on covenant. Those are based on feelings. Covenant isn't based on feelings. It is based on unconditional love. You have taken with your vows and you've said, here's a condition. I'm taking that out. I'm taking this, better or worse. Take those conditions out of this love. All of my conditions I'm taking away, for better or for worse, forever, in sickness and in health, till death do us part. There are no conditions with this love. That is covenant. Divorce still happens, though. Divorce happens when we stop living by covenant. These marriage vows removed all condition. All that is left is to love and to cherish till death do us part. There is this beautiful picture that only death can separate you. I want you to get the beauty of that picture. Nothing can separate you from the love of your spouse, your betrothed, but death. And even in death, you'll still love them. But nothing can separate you. Isn't that a beautiful picture?
Yes. Amen.
Only the Lord calling your soul to heaven could separate you from that person in this life. Somebody ought to just have a chip on their shoulder about their marriage. I dare something to try to come in between me and my wife, to come in between me and my spouse, because I have removed all condition, and only death could get me away. Only death could keep me from being by her side. Somebody needs to feel that way in your marriage.
Thank you for joining us. For more information about redemption, look us up online at www.redemption-church.com and be sure to connect with us on Facebook and Twitter.